Hi, I'm Anthony Gomez. This is a story I'd like to share with you. I shared recently with my friend, and it was on an audio file. I didn't have this luxury of a, laptop. It's something that I've been wanting to write, but it's so close to me. It's kind of hard to write. When things are that close, it's one of those things that's, so close, it's right in front of your nose and you can't see it. And I catch glimpses of this, and the significance of this over the years has truly haunted me. And I just thought of something else that happened today. Today I went out to the supermarket, and at the very last minute, I was going to go to I'm headed to Walmart. And there's a local Piggly Wiggly near where I live, a little supermarket, local market. And at the very last minute, I jumped into that chicken lane and I made that left turn into that parking lot. And so suddenly that the guy behind me was kind of shocked by what I was doing. And I don't know what made me do that, Maybe the fact that ground beef was on sale for $1.98 a pound, had something to do with it. But it was more than that. I pull into the parking lot, and a young man starts to walk over to me. Whenever a young man walks over to you out of the blue, he wants something, So I'm looking at this young man as he's walking toward me. I'm looking in his eyes, and I don't see any threat there. Well, he asked me if he could use my cell phone to make a phone call. He was waiting for a ride. Now, I've shared with other people that at this particular corner, it's the closest place to a local courthouse. And people who spend the night in jail there usually end up somewhere around this corner. Whether it's a convenience store or the supermarket, they kind of get stranded there waiting for a ride home, So I let the young man use my phone. He makes a connection with someone. I said, "Did you get someone live to talk to and not a message?" He goes, "Yeah, my dad's on his way." Turns out this young man was studying at the Citadel. Young man, 22, 23, studying engineering. And I'm looking at him and said, "What happened? What did you do?" He said, "Well, I did something stupid last night, and I don't usually do this, and I got a DUI last night." So we spoke for a while. I shared some of my life story with him. I told him how I died 4 times. That's another story. And I told him that Jesus loved him no matter what. And whatever he was going through, it was all part of making him who he's going to be in the future. And it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. But this young man listened to me so attentively, and the tears would well up in his eyes. And when we got done, he ended up hugging me. I'd never seen this guy before, It was just one of those encounters. And I said, God has a way of working. You can't see these things in advance. It just comes out of nowhere. And I shared this story with him, which I had shared with my friend and brother, Doug Blair, in an audio tape. And I shared it on another site. But I'm going to tell you the story about how I found Jesus before I ever really found Jesus. He had found me. He was just waiting for me to turn around and see him. But I was going through a divorce. It's a tough time in my life. I'd made a lot of mistakes, like this young man. Matter of fact, as I told the young man, it's tip of the iceberg, kiddo. You don't know. If I began to tell you all the stupid things I've done in my life, and all the regrets I have, and all the dumb things, and I said, at the age of 54, I can look back at those things now, and as stupid as they were, as ill-planned as they were, and the effects they had on myself and others, I wouldn't change a thing. Because I really can't see, or couldn't see. any other way to God's saving grace. It's what led me to Jesus. But I'm a hard learner, and I had to learn the hard way. Anyway, during this time, my divorce, and I was going through a period of depression, acting out. I was angry. I was depressed. I was narcissistic. I was just thinking about myself all the time. Self-gratifying in every way. I was addicted to strip clubs and women, and not so much booze or drugs. That never was my thing, but the lustful side of life. And probably, I would say, acting out from a lot of stimuli I received as a child, things that happened to me, and I think I was just acting out on those things, being overly, what's the word? Stuck for the words right now. I did have a stroke 5 years ago, a brain clot. So every once in a while I get stuck for words. But anyway, it'll come to me later. But anyway, so I'm going through this period in my life where I just let things go. I let my personal hygiene go. I just didn't care. I was suicidal. I really felt like I had nothing to live for. I blew my marriage to a wonderful girl, and did all the wrong things to her. I just wasn't there for her. I was there for myself. And so during this time, I'm living the life of a bachelor, and I won't say happy bachelors. I don't think there's any such thing. But living the life of a bachelor, and I lost my good job. I lost my temper, and I lost my job. And now I was relegated to delivering pizzas at night, which barely could pay my rent. And the good thing about that was food was always available, so I didn't have to. I didn't really shop for food. I just took something home at the end of every night, So these things started piling up, the paper plates, empty cups, the stuff that food comes in, fast food. And I had a Dodge Neon, and the back seat was just full, to such a degree that it was, from the floor, it started piling up on the back seat. And one day, I had this epiphany: I've got to get my act together. So I took this apartment I hated being in, I hated living in. I blow in everything, and I just resented where I was and how I was living, and the nice home life that I could have had if I had been a bit wiser. So I'm looking at everything, and I said, you reach one of those moments where you can only fall so far, and you just start cleaning up. So I started cleaning up, and I'm scrubbing the floors, I'm scrubbing the toilets, I'm cleaning the windows, the blinds. I'm trying to get the house clean, clear out all this negativity, and I decided to tackle the car. Well, many months before, my mom had given me a cross. And it's one of those things you get when you go to a retreat. She would go to these retreats very often with the Catholic Church. And so she would bring me these crosses. And over a period of time, I'd lose every single one. Every one that had the depiction of a crucified Christ on the cross, I'd lose them. I'd just look and they wouldn't be there, it'd just fall off my neck or whatever, And I kept losing chain after chain after chain. Well, I won't chain, they were on cords. They're, nothing expensive. And this one particular one my mom gave me had the Jesus was attached via 3 little rivets, and they would they would vibrate, and they were loose, So I would take a pair of pliers and crimp them every now and then. One day I looked, and all there was a cross with 3 empty holes. And I didn't get it then. I get the message now. He's not on that cross. He's risen, amen. Well, anyway, of course, I didn't know then what I know now. And I continued to wear that cross just like that. I'm going to get back to cleaning the car in a minute. Years prior to that, in my teen years, my dad gave me a family heirloom. It was a big gold medallion, solid gold. It was Star of David shape. I had Mother Mary on one side, on the other side had Jesus. And I was very puzzled by the fact that he gave me this, he trusted me with this. I really didn't feel mature enough or deserving enough or worthy enough. It basically frightened me a bit to be entrusted with such a huge responsibility, And I had gone down to the ocean to harvest, I guess what they call sand fleas. It's something an old man showed me. It's kind of like a rake with a basket, and as the waves recede, in a few feet of water, you go the other way, like towards the land, and you sift through the sand, and you'll find these little sand fleas. They look like ocean cockroaches, except they're just beautiful. For legs, they have little paddles, and it's a shell that's really smooth, and it's got this iridescent blue design to it. I mean, it just blends in with the sand and the sea, If you drop one on the sand, on the wet sand, it disappears right before your eyes. I mean, it just dig right in. Well, I found an old man that I used to observe who was very secretive. He'd go to the end of the jetty and he'd be out there by himself, and sometimes in the rain, and I would watch him, he kept everything secret. He'd cover his little bucket up with a little towel, and you couldn't see what he was doing, but the thing that got me was he would catch fish after fish after fish. And one day, I noticed that he slipped a few times. I was really worried about him because this guy had to be in his 70s, And I was a young man, 15, 16 years old, And I had learned something that someone taught me is if you take a piece of felt and you just rubber band them around your shoes, it'll keep you from sliding. So I told the old man about the felt, and he was so grateful. He showed me how to snell hooks. He showed me how to tie the loop end of the hook to the snell where it'd be perfectly straight, like when you buy them in the stores, And he taught me about the sand fleas and also how to get green crabs, which is probably the best bait when you're black fishing, So, going back, I was fetching these sand fleas one day, and I had that cross around my neck that my dad had given me. When I got home, well, not really when I got home, before I got home, I noticed that it was missing. It was off my neck. It just felt really light, And I was in a panic. I didn't know what to do. What was I going to tell my dad? My dad was, he could really lose it, And I felt the brunt of that and growing up, where he was kind of heavy-handed with the discipline. That's an understatement. So I was terrified, I wanted to go back and get this cross. So I go back the next day, and I'm standing on the boardwalk staring at the ocean, and I'm just looking at this vast ocean, and I went to the point where I went down off the boardwalk, and I'm staring across, and I'm trying to pinpoint where I would have been and where I needed to be today to have a shot of finding this, because the tides had changed. In fact, where it was a different time of day, different tide. So where I stood the day before and the time of day now, the tide was so different that where I had to go seek was slightly over my head. So I made a predetermined beeline. I looked and I focused and I said, okay, when I walked in this direction, and I stopped where I thought it would be. And I was just on my tippy toes bouncing up and down, And I dove down, took a big scoop of sand, just opened my fingers up and took a big scoop of sand. And when I lifted up my hand, dangling from my finger was the cross and the chain. And it wasn't very long after that I lost it again, playing basketball, But I was so amazed by this. You can't make this stuff up, I'd never told anyone. Number one is I couldn't tell them that I had ever lost it, for one thing. But I never told, my family doesn't even know. My dad, God rest his soul, never knew that I had lost it. He knew the second time I lost it, but the first time, no one knew. This was just between me and I guess God. No one knew. I prayed. I was desperate. I was scared. I'd never been so scared in my life. I had to get this cross back. So, getting back to the car. So here I am at this point in my life. And I decide to take on the car. I'm cleaning the car. I'm taking things out of the car. I must have packed 2 trash bags full, And as I start to clear out, I clear out the whole floor. And I start to take things off the seat. And I've got it all cleaned up. I got the whisk broom out and I'm sweeping up. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a little glint. And I'm wondering what that is. I'm thinking it's a coin. It's a quarter, a dime, a nickel, or something, So I stick my hand in there, in the crevice there, between where you would sit and where the back of the seat is, in that little corner. And I pull this thing out. It was Jesus. There it was, my cross, the one I lost. And at the time, I couldn't see it. And that night, I went out to read at a local open mic coffee shop locally where I lived. And I read, when I got up in front of the folks to read, the first thing I said was, I found Jesus today. And, knowing me, everybody laughed, big chuckles. And I said, no, seriously, I found Jesus today. And I told them this story. But honestly, at that point in my life, physically I found him, but I didn't know him. But you know what? He was in my mess. Jesus was right in the middle of my mess all along, never abandoned me. It took me many years to understand that the whole time. By grace, Jesus was right in the middle of one of the biggest messes of my life. I am eternally grateful. Thanks be to God, and glory be to God. And I'm grateful to be able to share this with you. God's peace to you. Amen.